Hello, I thought, Mama Rosa, I thought maybe we could start with you. Maybe just give everybody an indication of what it is you're involved with in Namibia as an introduction to this talk.
Yeah. Good afternoon to everybody. I would say saint, but for me, earth, Uba. So I'm really just greeting my great ancestors by chanting out to them, Hochai, Hochai, Abocha Due. Uba Huda Giran, Sida Gen Hubaira, ha. Sida Gen Hubiran. So they are saying the earth is giving us food and we are living on the earth. So with that, I want to say, yeah, I am a former member of parliament. I'm no longer a member of parliament. And I have gone back to work on the ground with civil society members. And my take is to fight against violence against women and children. That was what we were doing. But I think basically after many years, since 1985, but I think we have managed to bring in the laws in the country. We have managed to have equality issues and so, but the violence and the abuse has not been stopped. And as a result, there was a need to work on it. So yeah, we would demonstrate, we would go out, do all those things. We would have workshops for women and talk about 50-50 and so, but still it did not. And what we picked up is in that process, we left behind our men. And then also in that process, women became very stronger and maybe each one interpreted her own. But then the economic empowerment was not happening. So basically, 2016, we reviewed ourselves. 2010 first, we reviewed ourselves and critiqued ourselves around exclusion of men. And so it was agreed to bring in the men and also do the same awareness for men and so on, because without them, the violence cannot be. So every year we have the 16 days, every year we have activities and so. And then 2015, there was the whole question of support groups. How do they get out if they stand up against their husband, of their partners and so. And it was then very clear, bringing also the climate change and so, to go back to the roots where our ancestors were surviving from the earth, and also to hint to the call of protecting the environment. And that's when it came out clear. So what the image that you would see was the pilot. That was the first, and it was a community in Aio Da Go. And they were the ones who helped us to introduce how to do the gardening back again. Organic, we don't use any ads. We create our own compost, and we do it very healthy, looking at what has been happening in the world and all those mixtures of plants and animals with different poisons. So ours was to say, is there a way out how we can live and live safe? And that is how we started. So what basically also this garden is doing is to really bring consciousness to the women and men to really respect the environment, but also to acknowledge that from earth we have been eating. We have been eating from the wild fruits. That's the past. With the ancestors, they were harvesting from the wild, they were hunting the animals, and those are no longer allowed. And most of the food and medicinal plants has been dying out alone out there. So we also wanted to bring that to the front. Okay, if we start, that's the end. Okay, yeah, this is Namibia's Africa. Africa, where Namibia is part of. Yeah, and we are West Africa. We are a post-German colony, and it's called Zuidelijk Africa, Zuidelijk Africa, the Southern Africa. So those are the southern countries. Yeah, let's pass. And Namibia is 2 times bigger than Deutschland, with a population of 2.3 million inhabitants. Very dry because we have in the west the Kalahari and the Namib, and in the west the Kalahari desert. So it's really dry. Yeah, and those are the different regions. The top region is Ovambo speaking Namibians. The middle is mixed up, yeah. And then it has the biggest gap between rich and poor in the world. That's, you can see the wealth is like that. That's now the city in Swakopmund. Yeah, okay. And the most Namibians live in poverty, and that's the shanty towns. There is no sanitation, there is no lights, no proper roads. People just had hepatitis B, and it was due to hygiene. When the rain comes, they really get washed away, and so on. So there's poverty there. People are really surviving from small markets. They sell their produce. Okay. Yeah, and then the biggest gap, it was also shown by the world map, what is happening, and really the hunger map has showed the countries that are suffering. And I think it is also linked very politically with the economies and our governments to borrow monies and not process the monies to the right places. And therefore then remains the gap. Okay. Okay, but we have positive things. 1.5 million we receive yearly on tourism, except for the time of COVID, 2021 and 2019 and 2021. We were impacted badly by COVID, but usually our tourism is a major income level. That's Ruakana, between Angola and Namibia. Yeah. Yeah, just pictures of our animals to divert you a little bit. That's a Tosha pen, and you can view them usually, and so, yeah. We still have German artifacts in the country, especially in Swakop. It's more German oriented. We have to close shops at 3, open again, and so on. So really, this is a symbolic one. It's an old church of the German church, yeah, die Deutsche Gemeinschaft, yeah, Christuskirche. The German Reich of the Feste, the Olde Feste. That's called the Olde Feste Museum. At the moment, he has been removed and he stays inside the Elder Feste. That is, no, what is his name again?
This is, well, no, this is, it's just called the Rider. This, it's the Rider Denkmal is what it was called, but it's in commemoration to the German soldiers that had died and the Alta Festa, of course, being one of the forts where Invin took.
Yeah, and just behind to the Alta Festa, there was the concentration camp where our ancestors were kept and then some of them killed. And both sides, there is a place where one of the leaders of Damaran, Khamsep, Chief Khamsep, is in the Botanic Gardens. That was a slope, and they have been thrown in there. So yeah, that features are still visible in the country. Besides him as the rector, there's the names of the streets still refer to Bismarck and Ludwig and all those people. Okay. Yeah, like I said, street names, things are still called like that. Lucen, Apotheke, Woerman and Brock, those are the owners, and Pupkewitz, and so on. So also the architecture, you can see that it is really very similar to what you have in Germany. Yeah. Okay. So now, yeah, there 2017, after talking 2016, we started to set up the garden. There was really nothing. So we started from scratch. We called volunteers and a bit of experts with us who needed to gain experience. And so here we are starting up the greenhouse, and then we are marking where the garden plants will be. And so, yeah. Yeah, then the pipes, this was our first tomato space, the greenhouse. We had the tomato. So these are the pipes that, yeah, just going on, really moving, doing it for the first time. All of us are engaged, our women, our men, the volunteers that have come from Germany. That is also the relationship that we are building to help to change what our both ancestors has done wrong. So that's what we are doing. Yeah. So then we were plowing. That's the crew, the whole crew that was working in the garden. And we have set up successfully the greenhouse. But okay, yeah, so we get education, and then that was the produce that has gone on for quite some time. The people in their account talk of 100,000 now. They are managing to pay themselves. They are eating their vegetables, and they are selling the surplus. Yeah. And yeah, they dry also some of them when there's over harvest of veggies happening. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it's many other veggies that are left after eating in the surplus. So yeah, we sell them. That's our tomato space. I guess the lady was tired. She was sitting there. So we are cutting the tomatoes so that they can be gesnoei, I don't know in English, but we are just making sure that they have less leaves and enough space for the fruit to form itself. So we really had to do it nicely. So there is a whole work together of both women and men with us. There is no separation. Yeah. I think we can go, yeah, our harvest really. It was beautiful, the harvest, and then this was how we learned to start to eat vegetables. Even the leaves of the carrots, we didn't know it was so nutritious and it is needed, it can be eaten. We were cleaning it up, but we were told not to do that because people cook also the leaves. Yeah. Our cabbage, yeah, that's how big they can grow.
Sure.
Yeah. And then we decided we are challenged by water. So after a year, we challenged ourselves and said we must put up a pond. And this pond was digged by both women and men. And today we have a pond for rainwater harvesting. And we have managed really with the rainwater. Yeah. Yeah, just the pond, just the veggies, just the veggie space. That's our garden. Okay, here the first thing we started to do was to process the food. And here we are drying the veggies, making them dry with the simplest way, and then we sell. And I must tell you, people who want the veggies to be dried. So we need to develop that skill. At the moment, that is not developed. We just have small knowledge. We need a room to set up for the dust protection. We need to have all the equipments to do that. And so, yeah. And we involved our children so that they can become part of the process. And when they come for holidays, they must do exactly watering the plants, making sure that the weed is out and so on. Yeah. And the repayment is a nice tomato veggies. So you are taught to eat vegetables. And that's the ongoing team now. We have lost the 1 second from the left, that Cornelius we lost, but the rest of us are there. Yeah. I think basically they help, they do, this is children from the children's home. And so they have their holidays on the farm. And that's how they would come and help to harvest and help to cut if you want to do drying and so on. To sell, we don't involve the small ones to sell, but one above 18 can help us to sell. Yeah, we have a bio market, Klein Windhoek, and people are buying there. It's usually very unusual that you go back with your veggies. It gets finished by everybody who comes there. So yeah, for COVID time, we have not done that. Okay. All right. And I thank you for listening. I'm open for questions. We still exist up till this day. We are really doing with combining this with our healing. So we are setting up a healing center. We are busy to set up a healing center where all the medicine, all the other things will come. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Mama Rosa. That's very, very interesting. I think if you can hang on with us, we could get to the maybe the question section a bit later on. So I hope you can still be there with us.
Yeah.
Thank you. Lucy and Melissa, I wonder if you could take this opportunity now to give us an indication of what the Oppie Yaart project is all about.
Start. Hi everyone. So Oppie Yaart is Lucy and myself. We're partners and we're based in Cape Town on the Cape Flats, which is an area traditionally what I prefer to say brown people, although that's quite a tricky thing. Moved under the Various Act. So it's moved a township, under the township, with everything that involves the challenges we face in terms of social challenges, that involves. but also quite an active and vibrant community. It's a very long history, the challenges. So what we do, we have Oppie Yaart, which is
excuse me, both. Maybe you can
version
share one computer
of,
because Melissa
Yeah,
is
we need to share one
not
computer.
moving in the image.
Comes to the ears.
Exactly, and the sound
Okay.
is not good right now. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Sorry, we didn't have the two earphone device that we that we were trying to get. So let me just continue. There we go.
That's better. That's nice.
Is that better?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's
Okay, there we go. So we're in urban space on the Cape Flats, and how Oppie Yaart started, I think, is it's my family home where I grew up, and my grandmother had a history. She was a farm worker, and I learned to grow vegetables from her, and so it's our home space, and we grow food, we grow some medicines, and what we try to do is to reconnect to that part of our heritage in relation to the land, in relation to our culture that we were disconnected from, both by colonialism and also by the apartheid system, which put us in this particular place with soils that are not really conducive to planting. And we also do workshops in that space, and a whole host of other things. Lucy, do you want to continue?
Okay.
Hello, Lucy.
Hi, Garth. Great, man. Nice to be here. Lekker om met te wees, man.
Okay.
You know, it's so lekker to talk about your history and your heritage, you know, to feel proud about who you are. I think that is something that I want to say here about ourselves, right? And now that we are in a space and we're sort of carving our own paths. You know, I thought it's something that I needed to share with this group about where we're going, you know, and how we have realized that how important it is to have love and to have family and to be together and to be with each other and to share, you know, and also to be part of, you know, a sort of a new, it's a refreshing new kind of way of looking at ourselves, you know, and also finding out, you know. Yes?
Lucy, I thought, for the sake of context, one of the interesting things that Melissa mentioned was the soil of the Cape Flats and what we have inherited from the apartheid regime. If you could give an indication of what that actually means and how cruel that was as a social engineering step as a result of apartheid, then people could have understanding of why we're about the soil.
Yes, thank you for that, Garth. I can go off a little bit sometimes. But I think the soil here, you know, this is so important to talk about the soil. And just to think about it, what the Cape Flats where we are now, what was there before? You know, the white people came here, Garth. Let's just look at the Stone Age, you know. I mean, stone tools were found in that area where I'm living, where we're living. You know, our indigenous people, I say indigenous because I don't have another word, because that is another problem we're having. But now if I think about the people that was moving up and down, you know, and people that pastured around that area. You know, the white lion, I just want to share with you, the white lion is nowhere to be found. But if I think about how, you know, our people were dumped into this area also afterwards, when the soil started to deplete, you know, when it became sandy, like it is right now, that we have to, you know, grow, make our own compost and fertilize our soil, you know, and we actually were very successful in doing that, you know, with understanding what it is the soil needs so that we can grow food and grow medicine, you know. So the sand that is there now, we've mulched it, we've done a few things with it, you know. And as I said, you know, if I think about how the colony, how it happened, you know, with climate change also, you know, as part of this, and how that area where we live in, how it needs to be nurtured, it needs to be fertilized, and how important it is about eating, you cannot do without soil. A soil is in the middle of everything, of who we are, you know. And this is what I started to understand, getting to know the soil, getting to know the garden. You know, I learned a lot from Melissa. Melissa taught me a lot, and I'm still learning, and I'm, you know, over the soil. And, you know, if you look at our soil, I don't know if you've got any pictures there of our soil, then you'll see how the soil has grown, you know, and how it is much richer, but we are still struggling with the soil. We still have that sandiness. So we use a certain kind of method, and Melissa can elaborate more on that, how we have successfully now.
Do you want me to start your presentation?
Yes, please, if you like. Yes, great.
Okay. So just to add on to what Lucy was saying, the Cape Flats is, the soil there is sea sand. It's basically sea sand because it's coastal, right? So where the apartheid regime put people, they literally put homes on top of sea sand. So the soil has no nutrition. It is mostly for fynbos, which is our medicinal plants, and which we use quite a lot. Yeah. You know, we grow the medicinal plants, but of course it's not for food, because food plants have much higher nutritional requirements and are not adapted to the Cape Flat sandy soil. So as Lucy said, it requires a lot of mulch, it requires a lot of compost. And the challenge is also that, you know, looking then to the kinds of indigenous foods and indigenous crops that we used to grow, because most of what we consider modern diet, like your spinaches and your potatoes, is not our indigenous foods. It's not what was growing there. And so we've obviously adapted that kind of diet. I mean, the whole world has adopted that kind of diet. But in terms of our indigenous plants, who are adapted to the sandy soil, so you can grow some of the Willowdaggas, the Wille Als, the Krekie Roermynie, they are able to do that. But as soon as you move towards food growing, as we know it today, then you're going to have particular challenges around the ability of the soil to hold water, because of course sand doesn't hold water. But where we are, there's also an aquifer. There's an aquifer, and which allows the farmers to access the water, but it's also under threat due to overdevelopment. And we had day zero, of course, which was particularly challenging when Cape Town was going to run out of water. And in terms of climate projections, the where we are, the western and eastern part of Southern Africa is going to get increasingly dry, which means in terms of your soil, you need to be mulching more, you need to be composting more. But as you do that, you actually are changing the soil profile to an extent that the indigenous fynbos and medicinal plants, they won't flourish as well, because they are adapted to the indigenous sandy soil. Yeah. You want to add, Lucy?
Yes. You know, things get more complicated when you start understanding the history of a certain place, you know, you start understanding what happened. So what we were saying about making our own compost and the material that we use, everything that we, all the waste, you know, even if we cut a hedge or something, we take that and we make it part of a material of compost that we use. And we will then, you know, with carbon, with nitrogen, we build up this compost heap, which we use all natural materials, organic materials. You know, we've also got some partners that assist us with our vision. They assist us with cardboard. They assist us with what you call this in the English? Sawdust. Yes. We have made some partners. You know, whilst we are busy with fertilizing the soil, we have found people out there that are doing similar things, man. That are also starting to grow certain things in their soils, and that are starting to look to build this, you know, the soil and grow food. and grow food, just to get back to this, to grow food. And the main aim of this is to grow food so that we can, you know, feed ourselves, you know, we're talking about food justice. And if you speak about food justice, you speak about the soil, you know, because the soil is going to give you that justice. I believe that justice will come when that soil is, where you can just throw a seed and a plant will come up. You know, that is my idealistic way of thinking. But so now we've also involved other people that are also very interested in what we're doing. You know, yes, I think I'm going to leave for Melissa to speak a little bit about our partners, you know, those that are in solidarity with what we're doing.
So, Lucy and I are a couple, of course, so we're queers, and so
We call ourselves queries.
queries, query theories. So, I mean, our life experience is, of course, everyone's life experience is very central to what they do, but our life experiences as queer people, the challenges we've had in terms of accessing certain spaces, you know, the challenges we've had within our families where, where as a queer person, you often find yourself outside, standing on the outside of either your family or the broader society. And so that's something that's very close to our heart. And we've partnered with Triangle Project, which is, I think, the oldest queer NGO in South Africa. And they support the queer community.
Non-profit organization. NPO.
NPO, thank you, Lucy. In South Africa. And they support the queer community in a number of ways. They support people with healthcare services. They support people in terms of nutrition, where nutrition is lacking. And so we've partnered now to start queer food gardens. Because nutrition is lacking, because our communities are challenged very much in terms of economics, but also COVID has made that so much worse. In terms of mental health, because also working in the garden, touching the soil, reconnecting to land and reconnecting to culture is also a very spiritual process. It allows people to deal with stress. It builds community. So Triangle is very much a partner in that sense. And we are building as a collective community gardens throughout the Cape Flats in different townships and areas, and trying to mobilize the queer community, those who are more resourced, those who have access to certain things, to then come with us and build in those areas where resources are lacking. And the need is quite great. So yeah, that is our partnership with Triangle Project. We very much at the starting phase of building this collective, but it's very exciting. It's hopeful. It's given us a lot of hope because conditions in our communities are really challenging. But also in terms of Lucy's work, also very much the culture, the language, and the art aspect, I think, Garth, as well, the art aspect of connecting to the land, of rediscovering or reconnecting to our history, our heritage. But always the land is an important question, because also people don't necessarily have spaces to grow. So how we as a collective now, someone has a space, but they don't have resources. Someone has some resources, but they don't have space. How do we come together and put those things together and build something that is bigger than us, but also for the broader community?
Yeah, you know, that's great, Melissa.
Right.
One of the things I mean, just connecting on to what you said now is, I just wanted to mention that my medium that I'm using now, and which is part of the exhibition, is I'm working with sand now almost exclusively. After many years of dealing with issues like identity as it is reflected in our very, very unique kind of South African situation, the land, as represented by the soil in my medium, is a method for me of healing, of getting back to myself, of being more connected. And it is it is sometimes a vocabulary that one has to use in our community because of such a lot of the deprivation that I'm talking about is the you know, the purposeful ignorance that has been cultivated by apartheid education system, you know, and it is a way of talking with people when I'm dealing with the soil and sand in my work, and I feel it's the same with you.
Yes, yes, Garth. You know, if I could just share with you, Garth, what you just said now. For me, this is personal. You know, what I'm doing is personal. It is what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm supposed to be, you know, I see myself as an elder, you know, even if I have to say it now myself, I'm an elder. And I feel that this is the way, this journey that I find myself on is a way to heal. It's a way, you know, to the land. It's like restoring or reclaiming. You know, just to share with you the state that we are in with regards to, you know, access to certain things. That a lot of our people are going to town now. They are moving to town. They are putting up their houses and whatever in town because they're moving out of the Cape Flats because it's become so toxic. You know, it is become a place where it's as if you know, you feel that you don't know this way or that way. I mean, actually, I'm not complaining, but this is a situation. We sometimes hear gunshots going off in our areas, but we have decided that we can heal. We feel that we can green our traumatic areas that are traumatic. We can green those areas. You know, we can make it work.
Right.
You know, even if we have to speak to the gangsters, and you know, we just feel that it can work. So there's been some projects in our communities where young people have started their own gardens, and we have now become part of that, you know, that building this kind of community.
Right.
But the way that you know, God, just to share with you our situation, and also with Namibia. I mean, we come from that same cloth. You know, we come from that same cloth. We have our similar situations that Mama was talking about.
Yeah.
You know, we are still sitting with divisions. There are divisions in our communities. There are things that are going on in our communities that is similar. Things haven't changed. The interpretation, the narrative is still the grand narrative. We're still having to face up to that. We have these statues in town, monuments in town, you know, where we want to bring down. We actually want to throw it down. We have become we've become resilient, yes, but also assertive, and we're having the agency more to say, but you know, was it no genoeg gehad? So now we're starting these gardens, and we believe that this is a way out for us, that we can. And so Triangle Project, you know, they have also now seen that. They've seen it, and we are walking that way, and we're finding there are more people coming forward. They are coming, they're seeing. And so we are positive about, you know, building, you know, and our food gardens.
If I just may, Garth, thank you, and also to Lucy and Melissa, and to Marosa. All of you've mentioned really things that have popped up or brought me to kind of, you know, that have kind of connected all these little dots, where the artist is coming from, where the gardening projects are coming from, what the essence of them are. And you've, you know, all mentioned things that I think pop up as we are all trying to navigate through these different things. There's the conversation about the indigenous people, indigenous practices, climate change, of course, the apartheid systems, and then ancestors, and there's this process, or there's this kind of repetition of getting to know the soil. And I think, just to touch a little bit of context, I mean, one of the many reasons why we thought to come to Oppie Yaart or to Aio Da Go, a community garden, we were kind of led also as artists, as this topic does, to look at it further than these grains of sand that we were looking at material, you know, as a physical material. And we were led to these gardens, right? It was not, while we wanted to cover all the layers, where we really went to search. As we searched, we were led to this, because I think these stories are obviously connected like that. And so the context of bringing then the gardens into this project was, I think, and maybe the rest of the artists can also touch on this, was because you know, obviously these stories create, you know, then a context for the bigger thing, right? None of the gardening projects, for example, like in the Western context, are just about, you know, preserving the environment, or just about people feeding themselves, while everything has led to the gardening projects are also leading to many things. And so you know, I would like to, if both Marosa and then the Oppie Yaart team can talk a little bit more about that level of inclusion, and then also this history that has kind of brought you to really look at this specifically in the Namibian South African context. While you've touched on that, I think it's also important to not kind of disregard how all those other factors that come into gardening. And of course, as artists, we were also speaking even after this project and looking at and making these comparisons, and you know, it would be interesting to touch more on what is the story of the indigenous practice in the gardening. What is the story of us as artists, then using this material thing, and then finding healing? What are these narratives about? And then, yeah, just to paint like this picture of where we come together, because I think it happens so organically, mind the pun, that we came to these projects, and that so many other things were opened up. So very curious, and I think yeah, it would be interesting to dive into why the indigenous practices, why it's so important to do these gardening projects with these considerations of the people, the ancestors, the healing. And I think also in a European context, in a Western context, I don't know if these things, this vocabulary sits you know, in the same way that it does with us. So please, if you can go a little bit deeper into that, you know, it could be broadening, veiny.
I think we'll allow Ma to go first.
All the way.
Mama.
Okay. Slap ekauga.
Yeah, also this is a very beautiful thing, this language conversation and vocabulary was popping up. So I'm asking, and you guys do this intergenerational, integrated approach to your work. So obviously you have all these layers of like community work that you did before, and then these gardening projects brought you to, you know, it's all culminating. So what is the responsibility of the indigenous knowledge, or what role does this indigenous knowledge play in the preservation of the not only identity, but not only the soil, but the identity, the people? Why do we have to have the ancestral ways? Why is this a repetitive thing for you in your work, in this gardening?
For me, I think that is teaching us sustainability. That's the one thing. Then also it has come with knowledge of protecting the environment, but also connected with that is the main thing of doing, adding the rituals and the celebrations. So that should not also die away. As much as we bring sustainability to our people, we need to hold on and bring to life, because for so long we have been told that we cannot practice anymore our cultures, our way of living, our way to connect with the environment, with the nature. And also for long we have been told not to even celebrate birth, celebrate life. Don't baptize the children like you want, we baptize them the Christian way. So what happens is, it becomes very vital at this moment. For example, when COVID came to our land, the only thing that could help us was the wisdom of the elders. We were literally asking to go out there and look for the medicine. And this medicine helped us, for example, personally me, and then the minister was now and then coming up and saying, don't harvest the elephant dung. The elephants will kill you. But people have been harvesting this for so long. Or don't harvest the mopani worms because it's high in protein. So I think basically what is the key, as I said, is really to integrate both the wisdom and knowledge from the old with the new. And within the new is more to protect and bring it back to life, to rebirth, to protect the seeds, to know them by their name and to record them. We know them by our head. You can put me in the forest and I can immediately give you 10 different species of medicine. So, but it's in my head. So this whole new thing should be to be recorded and explained what it's worth and to be protected. We need to create a pattern. Pattern, a pet pattern.
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 Pattern. Patrons.
Patrons also laat het nie nooit gemors word nie.
So
Van al
patent.
die ander mense.
Patent. Patent. Patent.
So that we register our knowledge and protect it, so that, for example, we have the devil's claw. We have lost it. We have the koba, hodia. We have lost it. People have gone and they made their tablets and their oil, and now we have the wheat that people are now being removed, recorded, arrested, but that's oil, that's medicine. So we need to protect. It's only us, most of us, who know. Other people go and study. They study plants. Our elders have not studied, and we, my generation also, I have not gone to study botanic garden. I just know them by nature, by generational transfer. And there are food species there. And these things, when they are harvested, we do rituals. We speak to the plants. We talk to them. We don't over-harvest them. We don't remove that the sharing animal with that food is not coming to get nothing. We also don't take out all the roots. When it is small, you don't harvest. And so there are very respectful relationships between us and the plants. But now when you bring the vegetables and those back into the garden in Aio Da Go, you don't smoke in that garden of Aio Da Go. It's forbidden to smoke in the garden. The women who are smokers have to go out for smoke break. So much respect for the vegetables. You also don't make noise, lots of noise there. You are quiet, you need to listen to the birds, you need to listen to this. They have animal friends who are in the garden, friends of the plants. So those are the things that we are being put towards. And that teaches us sensitivity, it teaches us love, it teaches us peace, and negotiating for peace in real, when there is conflict, when there is violence in the families. That is what is bringing us there. Yeah.
And just before you go, Lucy and Melissa, and if you could also touch on it, there are these challenges that also keep popping up that come from the apartheid and colonial era. And what's it like also gardening in this time, just or with these new or these still similar structures kind of there? But yeah.
Lucy and Melissa, and just
How
1
long
second,
is it?
because we have like your slides as well, where you are showing plants, etc. Maybe you can
Yes.
combine the answer with the slides, okay? So I
Okay,
can put
sure.
I can put it on again.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mama. So I think in terms of our context, of course, we're in an urban space and we have lost the connection with our ancestral knowledge mostly through colonialism, but also through apartheid. So for us, this process is very much as people raised in an urban area who do not have a strong rural connection, because in certain rural places, people have a closer relationship with their heritage, with language, with cultural practices than we have in an urban space. So for us, this journey has very much been trying to reconnect with that indigenousness within ourselves, that relationship to land, relationship to wildlife, to plants. And so it's almost, I don't want to say, I want to refer to like it's almost decolonial work, as we're moving away from that which we've been taught, even religion. And I was at a family funeral this morning, and it's just so much again confronted by what has really been done to our people with this imposed religion, imposed by force and violence, to the detriment of our indigenous practices and culture, so much so that we cannot even speak our own language. It's so painful, and it's so difficult to do this work. But also, this is our healing process. This is how we are moving to find ourselves again. Because the worst, I think for me, the worst thing in terms of colonialism and apartheid is that process of removing us from our identity and giving us an identity that was created that is not real, you know, an identity that was imposed upon us. And so this process, this healing is really through the soil, through the plants, through the medicine, really trying to find ourselves again. Because I feel like a lot of the challenges, the gang violence that we face, the murders that we see in our community, the crime, the xenophobia, is all related to this loss of who we are, you know, the loss of our relationship to land, the loss of our relationship to place, the loss of our relationship to each other. And so, I mean, Lucy, this is more your field. I'm more the planty, sandy person. But for me, this is really, the more I go into the earth, the more I learn about plants, the further I move away from these things that have been imposed upon us, and the more clearly I am able to see what has really been done to our people, and how much we have lost.
Yeah, I think
Yes,
you are bringing.
Melissa has said, you know, almost everything that I wanted to say. You know, people say to us, but why are you angry? Hey God, why are we angry? Why are you angry? Why don't you just move on? Forgive and forget. You know? And yes.
They say sometimes you have to draw a line in the sand. You know that expression, huh?
Yes.
That's what they tell.
Yes. So you know, what is it about what we're doing right now that we find is so passionate? That we are restoring, basically, we are restoring who we are as the people that was here long before. I swear sometimes, so please forgive me, what these motherfuckers, I call them, what they did to us. And it is, we are saying it because we need to say it. Because part of the language and part of letting go of this, you know, it is part of admitting and saying that this is the way it is. That we was spilt a lot of lies about who we are. You know, we also lost our names. We were given names. Like Sun and Koi is also names. It is not, it was given to us. We don't have to say those names. You know, we are just people. And in the 1600s, when a group of English people came around here, they were sick and marooned on the side. And our people took care of them. I say our people because I've now, with the planting, with the growing, I've now come nearer to Lucy. I have become more up. I'm not, you know, I'm more myself. And I find that through this and through knowing who I am and remembering, through remembering who I am, because our history books has never ever told us about the history of our people and what they did. And if you look at the history of our people, you look at the indigenous knowledge systems that are priceless. It's priceless. And if you think, God, of what they did to the Houdia, you know the Houdia. I mean, look what they did. I mean, we can talk about the rooibos. We can talk about all kinds of things.
Yes.
If
And
you
now
could
we're
share more
looking at
context, please.
so now, you know, there we are just, I see on the screen, there is elephants, pigs ear. You know, and so we're also starting to get to know the plants. And this is also part of healing, to being able, Mama, to identify that plant. It's amazing. You know, it's just.
It's great that you go, you know, you see other educated people having volumes, books written about our plants. And yet me and Lucy can just walk into the forest, touch the leaves, smell it, and know its name, you know. And that means you assimilate this issue. It is in your DNA, it is in your bones. And don't talk about the songs that you can sing for those plants. There is beautiful songs. I just look at the Villa Als and say, ah, huera, auda, koma, hamaris, como nema sao. Aye, hue, hame, welt als die mi hae. Aye, hue, aye, hue. So you sing to it, but our children have been robbed by that. So what we are doing is we are reclaiming. And the anger makes us to reclaim. You need to be angry in your belly so that we can reclaim this process. And the tummy gets really very aggressive. And what we do is we go out and we protect. And we participate in the ministries, programs, conservancies. We educate our people to be part of the conservancies so that they can talk and ask for the quotas and say, can we have still the old way to hunt? Can we have still the old way to harvest? And Lucy was saying this whole hodia, kobai, I don't know. When it sounds hodia, it sounds something in a disco, hodia. No, koba. Koba means it's a medicine that helps us to stay fully fed whilst we are in the forest. It is a suppressant for diet. For now they use it to diet and make their figures nice. But I think why this has happened, and that's why it's important that the exhibition talks critically about these things when they exhibit. It's critical whose benefit it is. Listen, Dano, you are upside down again. Whose benefit it is, and who benefits when this medicine, this the sweet corn, you know, this one, sutuareng, it's our toothpick, eh? This is our toothpick, you know. Now it's cut, I don't know. That's our toothpick. Yeah. So it's very important that when we do the exhibitions and all that, we are able to explain. And it's good that you guys are down there in the exhibition so that you can stand firm and not be wishy-washy. This medicine make money, lots of money for people who are already enriched. I hope that Anna and them can bring in the love economy. The love economy means that this medicine becomes a transfer to fight poverty against our people. I was saying Namibia has this big gap, and this medicine, you are making the tablets, you are making the well for greatness sake. Can we have the 90% and you take the 10%?
Yeah. There's this repetition, I guess, also in our work that, of confronting then these kinds of like all these issues with on ourselves personally, like personally, and also I guess on a broader from a broader perspective as well. And there's a lot of confrontation, like the aggression is also something that is repeated and that is said is necessary. And I think there is, of course, an intention with the art piece, but of course, there's also intention with this work that you guys are so deeply involved in, and it's continuous all the time, because you have to deal with it on a mental level, emotionally, and then with as a community as well. It's very interesting also as we're trying to pick out who should be involved, who should be aware, who should be responsible, and even art spaces. Now we have this kind of responsibility as well to continuously confront, but also preserve the self, right? Because these things can be so, rotting to the root as well. So I guess there's another responsibility that artists have kind of been given now also by Ma, by saying, don't be wishy-washy, but also because these issues are so sensitive, and then seeing, how we can apply ourselves or engage really with full awareness, but also of the self, right? I think it's very, very beautiful for me. It's reaffirming for me also as an artist, as to why, and very important, I think, that the audience sees why on how these gardens and the narratives around there are so linked to the different things that we're doing in these stories, but also of course in this project, but also of course I guess continuously on a social level.
Maybe Lucy wants to come in, but sorry. As artists, for me, the artists, they need to be very critical in entertainment, and very beautiful in entertaining the audience. So you bring together being critical and beautiful, but transferring. In your poetic language, you bring praise songs, because that's what has been lost. I want to praise Lucy there. Ais ngwase, ai nchaita nase, ho hai, kapi ngake ngai ngwase, ai kai kai yekese, ai ngwasa ikanwai. Lucy, kaira narang kai base. Ho hai.
Sure.
Yeah. And that's what in the artwork they have to do, to chant to our ancestors so that they can hear us, and they can give us the goosebumps, and that makes us to initiate, reinvigorate. That's what the artists are supposed to do. They need to dance. And like on the 10th of October, the dates are there. They didn't have a calendar, Lucy, but they knew when to celebrate, when to speak up, when to light the fire, when to put the fruits and the veggies of the lands to give thanks, and then use the instruments. And one of the instruments was the hands. And then the voice. So that's what needs to be used, so that we can bring, because these things are alive. They are alive. In that exhibition, Nesindano and them must step in They must take the floor. They must take the audience. That was our power. And some people are very scared. That's why the witches were hunted down. And we need to protect the witches now.
Protect the witches.
Of course, the queen has passed on. Tata ngqwa, tata ngqwa. Gause, gause. Okay.
Thank you, thank you. I think it's so beautiful to like, because for me, really as an artist, a lot of my work speaks about the restitution of that which is intangible, right? Like the entire structures or the entire like narratives were about removing who people are so that they cannot go to it. Well, ultimately, that's what it is like for me. And all these practices, the gardening, becoming one with the soil, you know, chanting, reclaiming, really going into those roots, kind of creates, or you know, this like you said, Lucy, anew, and also. I think continuously we need to grow also how the vocabulary that we use in artists, this decolonial, decolonizing, you know, happens in that kind of awareness, and it's really, really, really vital. And once again repeats for me, you know, how all of these things are really connected. And I think we're preaching to the choir when we do speak it, but I really think. I experienced that as well, you know, as an artist, that the best part of where I create from is from really who I am. And I really, really appreciate having you guys, you know, really touch a little bit, a lot on this. I've said enough.
Thank you so much, because I think now the new teammates, the new generation has to take it further. And I'm so happy that the exhibitions and your visits are happening. But also you, the young ones, are challenged because you are joined with the, I don't know who was your teammates, Ruth, or who was it?
Peter.
Who came to Namibia?
Ruth and Peter.
Ruth and Peter comes with their background story. And here is Nesindano coming from me. And they get conflicts sometimes, I guess, I don't know, but the understanding and the presentation of these messages becomes conflicting. Sometimes she might want to be nice. And when I meet her, I'm telling her there's no nice here. We have to speak so that the other world can understand that there was pain. And then only then we become restoring this process and then meeting and blending together. I remember the Knacken Bones, or what was the play that you people had? The Broken Bones, or what?
The House of Falling Bones.
You played it so beautiful. You played it so beautiful. It was representing both worlds, really. And when it blends, it comes out fully comprehended by us who has the pain and those who have inflicting. We all have trauma, and that kind of thing heals us. It really brings healing. And I like that. And it's not an easy thing that you are coming out with. The music, for example. Nunu was playing the bow and arrow, and there was the other instrument that they were playing. And I was sitting there and looking how these two brings the sound to us that really heals our spirit. And that is what we want from the artist, that they become a unifying force. They become the united message. They become the clarity of what we are angry about. And then both our audience and their audience can move together. We are easily able to talk about this after watching the Fallen House of Bones. Also.
Yes.
This song talks about the tree, and there is a Omanghas. She's in the forest there. So the song says she must give us to cut from the tree. Why is she so stingy? Yeah, maybe they're looking for the firewood and so.
And Xhoes is kind of the name means like it's something dried out. So grandmother, dried out, shriveled up. Please give us permission to take from the tree.
Okay.
Man hatinga se komasiko ayeng osamate ita haisa koko am kaikwe aye tabe isa komakue aye auma hatinga se komasiko osamate ita aye. Oh yeah, Aisa. Koko ang kaikwe taipe. Sa goma.